Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So today we're going to be talking about Jim Cornette and his comment about Austin Theory being better than both Sammy Guevara and Kenny Omega. Now, when we talk about this, we're going to talk about a very specific thing. The words that Jim Cornette used. He said that Austin Theory is a much better worker than Kenny Omega. Those words are very specific. He said he was a better worker. Let's play the audio of what Jim Cornette had to say. Now I'm going to play this section. I want people to really pay attention to what Jim Cornette and Brian Last are talking about, because I want to play another clip from Al Snow afterwards to really dig deep into this. All right, so let's get it.
39. Is it today?
Yeah, that's where it's going to get interesting, because traditionally with wrestling, the older you got, the smarter you got. And that usually meant you knew you didn't have to do as much.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't have the capability to be smart or learn, because he doesn't understand the wrestling business. He doesn't know anything about it. It's obvious. The way he talks, the way he works, the way he thinks that he's a goddamn thespian, a stage artist, acting.
Now, of course, he's talking about Kenny Omega.
Out his art in a physical sense. He doesn't, nor has he ever understood what the wrestling business is or is supposed to be. So he's the last one that's going to be able to figure out a way to do what's smart for himself and his well-being and his career. He's going to try to go out in a blaze of glory with that fucking Pavarotti solo regardless.
But beyond Omega, just this overall problem. You know, in baseball, there's a saying, there's an expression that when a pitcher comes up, he knows how to throw, he doesn't know how to pitch. And a lot of the times, a pitcher, as he gets older and maybe doesn't have the velocity he once had,
learns how to pitch.
Learns how to fuck with the mind of the batter, learns how to play games with him, learns how to do things other than throw a fastball faster than anyone else.
Now, you see this, follow their train of thought. They're talking about, they're using a baseball analogy, but it's the same concept, right? It's about physicality versus psychology. All right, this is what they're talking about here. That's the 2 lanes that they're going down, and we're about to get to Cornette saying the the controversial line.
And that was traditionally what would happen in wrestling. But again, beyond Omega, a lot of these guys that have become stars in what I will just call the work rate period, where it wasn't as much about character and promos or angles or things you could pull off later in life. It was about getting people to love you and your style of wrestling and the kind of matches you're having because of that, because of the kind of matches you're having.
Your moves.
Because of your moves. Do you think that kind of wrestler is going to have a really difficult time past the age of 35, 40?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because it's not, you said, well, a young pitcher knows how to throw, but he don't know how to pitch. And then as he gets older, he learns how to pitch. Some of them don't. And some wrestlers, they can do all that shit when they're young, but as they got older, the good ones would learn how to work and the bad ones wouldn't. And that for the same reason that right now Austin Theory is what we say earlier in this program. He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
He's a much better worker than Kenny Omega is and ever will be right now.
Now, people are going to lose their minds if they hear you say that.
Okay. So, to avoid copyright strike, I'm not going to play any more of the Jim Cornette. But that's the line. You saw the build up to it. You saw the punchline. I added some context so people are going to just think that he wasn't just randomly talking about Kenny Omega out of nowhere. He's talking about maturing and your psychology getting better the older you get. That's what he's talking about. Now, I loathe to use this kind of audio, but it's the most potent stuff on the internet. We're going to use Hannibal TV in his interview with Al Snow. We're going to explain what the key word, the underlined word in Jim Cornette's statement. We're going to define it and see what it means. For those of you who, say you're just a guy on the internet, Mongo, I don't care what you have to say. So we're going to go through and we're going to define that magic word.
Charismatic character where Dean Malenko's a better technician, but John Cena made a lot more money? Or what would be your definition be of a good worker in wrestling?
Well, let's define what a worker is. Let's define what a work is, because people don't get that anymore. What's a work? Well, a work is a lie. It's a sham. It is my ability to make you believe something that's not true. That's what it is. No ifs, ands, or buts. A work is to make you buy what's a lie. And the only lie in wrestling is that it's not predetermined. That I'm really out there trying to win and trying not to lose. Can we agree?
Yes.
A worker is a guy who is very adept at being able to make or convince a large amount of people in a lie. Right?
Correct.
It has nothing to do with his physical ability. It has nothing to do with how many moves he can do. All it matters is, doesn't matter how he does it, is to allow you to believe in who he is and why he's out there doing it. The lie. All right?
All right. So now we have been told from 4 different people, because Hannibal was nodding during this whole thing, what a work and a worker, what these things are. It is not move sets. It is not physicality. It is to get people to believe in your character, in your character's motivations, and get people to believe that your matches are somewhat real and that you're really trying to win and that these things are not predetermined. Jim Cornette's biggest issue with the Young Bucks, with Kenny Omega, and with so many others is that they don't look like real wrestlers. They don't look believable. They do stuff that is not believable. For instance, when they call Road Warrior Buck, the small guy who doesn't sell anything. Of course, the average Joe is going to see that and say to themselves, oh, well, obviously this is fake. This guy's 5'7", 150 pounds. You drop him on his head, he gets right back up. His neck's not broken. His neck's not even hurt. He just got back up. That exposes the business. It's not good work. You're not getting people to truly believe that you're in a fight. You do all the stuff that Young Bucks and Kenny Omega does because you believe it's a performance. Now, when he says that Austin Theory is a better worker than Kenny Omega, what do you think he means? He thinks that Austin Theory is more believable than Kenny Omega. That Austin Theory works harder to get you to believe in him than Kenny Omega does. And he does that without doing all of the flips and all of the kersplats that Kenny Omega grew up doing, that people have known to love for Kenny Omega. He doesn't do that stuff. Now, if I were to go to the peanut gallery, what do you think we would see? One of the first things I saw was that until Austin Theory can have a match as good as Okada and Omega, and I just looked at that and said, these people do not understand the words that are coming out of Jim Cornette's mouth. He might as well speak in a different fucking language. It's a miscommunication by definition. They don't know what the words that he's using means. And I'm not even saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm saying that a lot of the people who disagree don't know what these words mean. They think he's saying Austin Theory has better matches than Kenny Omega. He has better moves than Kenny Omega. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that Austin Theory is more believable in the role that he portrays than Kenny Omega is. That's his comment. that Kenny Omega does not understand wrestling because he thinks wrestling is a performance, when wrestling is the art of getting you to believe in something that is not happening. Okay? It's a very different thing. A performance doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. You know, it's like a trapeze artist. When you go to the circus, you see the trapeze artist. He jumps from rope to rope, back and forth. They're going to add some drama by having it being high up in the air, and they may it may work without a net or something like that, where you're dazzled by the flips, you're dazzled by the movements, you're captured in the drama of he could fall at any time and hurt himself for real. But that's not work. The work is the guy who's swallowing the sword. Is he really doing that? The magician, right? The guy who pulls a rabbit out of a hat. How did he do that? The guy who cuts his escort or his valet in half. How did he do that? You know, getting you to believe something that you know cannot possibly be true, but maybe you can't see through it. Maybe you don't know how it's done. And maybe for a moment, you may even just sit back and say, you know what? He got me. I love watching old magic shows. Like, there's a old show called, I think, Penn and Teller. They had a show. I forget what it used to come on CW. And they would bring in illusionists and magicians. And the game was that Penn and Teller were such good magicians that they could figure out your act. And if you could beat them, you would win. You know, that was a beautiful game. Everybody knows what, you know, that magic is not real. Everybody knows that. And yet, they could still do something. Penn and Teller could still do something on that show to get people to believe, or at least question, how are they doing that? How are you getting this to work? You know? And sometimes they would even do one of their sets, and then they do it, and then they do a walkthrough to show you all of the different tricks and stuff that they did. It's fascinating shit. You know, now pro wrestling not going to reenact a match to get you to, you know, see how they did the magic. But everybody who watches wrestling today, for the most part, with the exception of some children, knows that wrestling is a work. And yet, they still believe in certain people. Still believe in Roman. They still believe that Roman is Roman. They still believe that Brock is Brock. You know? They know that they're doing something that, you know, Brock is going to lay down because Vince told him to. Yes. Yes, that's going to happen. Yes. But are you really thinking about that when Brock Lesnar is in the ring? I'm not. Are you really thinking about that when Roman Reigns is in the ring? I'm not. Because there's an aura about them, the way they carry themselves, where you want to believe that it's true. I mean, Roman Reigns is no more likely to win a fight than Drew Gulak, and we don't know that. We have no idea. But the persona, the work, tells you, shows you that Roman is far more believable in his role than Drew Gulak is. Oh, he may be a better technician than Drew Gulak, but he ain't never going to draw any money because I don't believe him. I don't buy into him the same way I buy into Roman. Now, he, of course, went to the extremes of, you know, Austin Theory and Kenny Omega. That twisted people's wigs. Absolutely just blew their wig right on off. I found it to be hilarious. You know, I thought it was hilarious. But I also, you know, went out of my way to understand what he was trying to say and why he said it. And even if you thought he was just blowing smoke up your ass, that's why I played the Al Snow clip. So that people would recognize, you know, that this is not the same thing. It's not what you think it is. It's not the comment that you think it is. You know, the comment is deeper and more precise than you think it is. Fuck it, man. I tried being mature about this, but god damn it. We must go to the peanut gallery. Oh boy. This is objectively not true. Kenny Omega is absolutely stellar in the ring. 95% of WWE's roster and even AEW's roster can't compare. He's generational. He's generational. Kenny Omega, generational. Jesus. Kenny is a main eventer, and the quality of his matches confirm it. Theory is a mid-carder at best, but he's not even in the same league as Kenny. Kenny is one of the greatest of all time. Ooh. Oh my God. Oh my God. Jim is just being Jim. Kenny has one of the best matches of all time. Even Stone Cold agreed, and he still gets hate. This is just a man hating because that's all he has. That's all he's got is hate. It's festering inside of him. It's festering inside of him. It's legit question. Has Theory had a match that even comes close to Omega Okada 2 out of 3 falls? Good Lord. Good Lord. I'm happy to see some people actually looking at this and they underlined the key word, which was worker, because so many other people they're just triggered. Their eyes are glowing in the dark right now. Jim is very biased towards Kenny Omega. I mean, biased against Kenny Omega. He would say a bag of chips in the air is better. I don't agree with him on any opinions he says about Kenny. That's just his personal beef, which I don't know if it will ever be settled. That's crazy. Are you serious? Kenny Omega is one of the best wrestlers in the world. To say a model who tries to wrestle is better than him is just crazy talk. I'm guessing this guy didn't see Sissy Slap Fight. Did you not see Sissy Slap Fight, sir? If you don't know what Sissy Slap Fight is, put it in your YouTube machine. It'll pop right up, and you can see what Kenny Omega really wanted to do before he got into pro wrestling. Here we go again. It's a crime to even compare the two. Omega puts on absolute bangers. Okada, Hangman, Styles, Danielson. I can't name one of Theory's matches that rival Omega's. Sure, he's got talent, but we're getting too carried away here. I mean, this guy, he just knows it all, huh? He knows everything. He knows it all. Goddamn, he got it all figured out. Thing is, we will never know with WWE's 5 moves of doom set for everyone unless you watched him on the indies. We get it. He's an old timer and stuck in his old ways. People like seeing wrestlers do their own thing in the ring more often than not. Good, bad, safe, or unsafe, it's their risk. What the fuck are you talking about, bruh? Here we go. Cornette hates Omega like he caught his wife sending him pics of her titties. It's fucking bizarre. Omega is an outstanding talent, and so is Theory. They are both generational talents, but at different stages of their careers. Well, I don't know, man. Cornette hates Omega and made that ludicrous statement to generate some heat in the Twitterverse. I hear Theory did some good work and evolved, but Jesus Christ, let the kid have a good match in WWE before we compare him to anyone, let alone a man who's held titles worldwide. Good Lord, what? Oh, boy. Oh, boy, Jesus. These guys are whiffing it so hard. They're getting triggered by the headlines. That's really what's going on here. They're just really, really triggered by the headline. They're really triggered. They're triggered as hell by the headline. They got them all fucked up. Somebody says, I feel like everyone's writing off Omega as a Teddy Hart-esque spot monkey has never actually paid attention to his matches. Theory's matches would actually run the risk of being interesting again if he wrestled how he did on the indies. If he wrestled the indie style, the style where, crash and burn and everybody does everything and nothing makes any sense, well, then he'd have interesting matches, because work is about matches, right? Absolutely. That's bizarre. It's bizarre. It says, he says, I disagree that Kenny Omega blows through his spots at full speed. His New Japan and AEW matches are more measured compared to early 2010s ROH or even a lot of the 2017 to 2019 NXT. which is why I hated NXT, because they were blowing through spots left and right, and none of that shit made any fucking sense. You know, it was all stupid, especially Johnny Gargano. It got real dumb. It got real dumb real fast. Kenny at least has personality. Can't say the same about Theory. So somebody says, what is that character? Why should I like or dislike Omega? And this is a good question. Great question. What is it about Kenny Omega that's so interesting? You know what I mean? So then somebody says, his belt collector character was a delusional goofball who was a great competitor, but was being gassed up by the people around him as an untouchable wrestling god. He ended up believing his own hype because everyone kept telling him he was amazing. This led to his downfall. His character is far better fleshed out than Theory's bland mash of nothing. What in the world? What in the world? This guy just wrote his own story. This is all headcanon right here. For starters, I could go back to the Al Snow Hannibal, and they talked about this. Being able to tell you who a wrestler is in 3 sentences or less. This guy, he used 1 long sentence, 2 long sentences. Okay, very long sentences. Theory's character is easier to sum up than Kenny Omega's. Theory's character is a young upstart wrestler who was taken under the wing by the boss and is utilizing that to the fullest. End of. You know, he's the boss's, he's a teacher's pet in some terms. That may be even a more succinct way of looking at things. You know, interesting enough, when I watched Money in the Bank, there were some people who don't usually watch wrestling that was watching it and was saying, like, why is everybody so angry? This is what makes WWE so different. Because the entire ring turned on Theory as soon as he came in. Babyfaces and heels. They all frowned up and they're like, damn, nobody likes this guy. What did he do? And then you explain that they all had to work to get into this thing and he didn't. You know, and because they didn't see the earlier part of the pay-per-view, he lost earlier. So he has no business being here. He's here purely because of favoritism. And guess what? They was able to understand the story and Theory from that point forward. It didn't take for me to sit down and run through all of this, you know, this bullshit. It was stuff that you could literally see, stuff that the commentary is going to back up. You know, this is ridiculous. Let's see. I like Austin Theory, but there's no way he's on Omega's level of wrestling skills. Maybe in 2 decades, but not now. Maybe in 40, maybe in 20 years. Maybe in 20 years he'll be as good as Kenny Omega. I mean, Kenny Omega is just so far above everyone, right? That's ridiculous. This one is even funnier. Cornette is a WWE mark. He is unbiased, but never burns the hand that fed him. He just dismisses WWE's crap while AEW gets the sharp tongue. I still listen and enjoy the program, but it's purely for entertainment, not for sage wisdom on what wrestling should be. And then somebody says he literally skipped Money in the Bank. Which is exactly what happened. He was actually angry at reading the results to Money in the Bank. He didn't want to watch it, and therefore he didn't, because he don't really like ladder matches anyway. So I mean, this is hilarious. If Omega ever joins WWE, a lot of opinions will change. Most people are only for the company and not for the wrestlers themselves. Guess what? If Kenny Omega was to join WWE, they'd probably force him to change his style. Vince is not above that, by the way. You see, he tried to do it to Ric Flair. That's why Ric Flair didn't last very long. When Ric Flair popped over from WCW in the early 90s, there's tons of stories out there about Vince hating Ric Flair's matches. Because Ric Flair was an athletic wrestler guy, and Vince was looking for an in-ring storyteller on the same level. That's why he kept putting him with Savage. You know, he never put him with Hogan. He kept putting him with Savage. And it wasn't drawing in the WWF because, you know, while Flair was great at telling stories, Flair's strong suit was the athletic part. You know, he could really get in there and do 60 minutes. WWF was interested in not interested in doing 60-minute athletic matches. They were not interested in doing that shit at all. You know, in the late 90s, late 80s, early 90s, no, they were not interested in that at all. So it's I don't care for Kenny Omega, but Jim just hates him too much to critique him fairly. Hard to disagree on his take on Liv, because I think he said Liv was too girly. We talked about that already. Oh man, people are just super angry about this whole Kenny Omega theory thing. You would think that they would actually think about this stuff. And then the sad thing is so many people are out here trying to tell them the difference. This is how you know when someone's out of their goddamn mind. Theory is nothing more than a hand-picked ass kisser. He couldn't hold a candle to Kenny Omega in the middle of a Category 10 hurricane. You're a clown, Cornette. Wow. He basically told us a Theory's story because he knows it. It's working. People believe. This guy truly believes Theory is just an ass kisser who gets where he is because he... How many times do you really catch a fish with the bait still in the mouth, man? God, he swallowed that hook, line, and sinker. Jesus Christ. Too long didn't read. When Austin Theory has a wrestling match with the same quality and hype as Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega at New Japan Dominion 2018, then and only then will I take Jim Cornette as gospel. Well, hold on to your... Sew your wig on tight. We're not going to be going anywhere near that. There's no way. That match was, what, 45 minutes? Theory is probably never going to wrestle a match 45 minutes in WWE ever. For his entire career, he's likely to never wrestle a 45-minute match. He's 24. Don't doubt that he can do it. He just never do it because it'll never be necessary. Coming from someone who listens to Jim Cornette's podcast, I'd rather watch a Kenny Omega match over a Theory match any day of the week. I don't think Kenny is the best in the world like everyone else does, but he's damn sure more entertaining than Theory's boring ass. Here his continuance. Jim Cornette claiming that Theory is greater than Kenny Omega really shows that Cornette doesn't watch a lot of modern wrestling outside of WWE and AEW. No way does Theory get this kind of praise if Jim ever watched Evolve. To be clear, I'm not saying that Theory sucks. I'm just saying that Jim is woefully misinformed about Austin Theory as a professional wrestler. Combine this with his utter hatred of Omega, and you get stupid claims like this. What is wrong? For starters, when Theory was in Evolve was like the ultimate in terms of developmental programs. Now, it wasn't always a developmental program. That's absolutely true. But he would have been in his very early 20s. He's only 24 now. He's not even like 25 or anything like that. So that means when Evolve was around, that was like 2-3 years ago. So he would have been 20, 19, 20, 21. Come on. We're going to compare a 21-year-old Austin Theory, before he had a big run in developmental and got to NXT and got a little bit better, to, Kenny Omega, who's been on New Japan for a decade at that point. So it was very strange. He was pretty much a rookie. So here's another one. Dork Ass is quoting Jim Cornette saying Austin Theory is a better worker than Kenny Omega and agreeing with him as if it means any kind of significance is highly comical. I don't even have to be a big fan of Kenny Omega to say how dumb of a thing that is to say. Wow. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. What a day. What a day. So somebody says, I have a way for this entire Kenny Omega Jim Cornette beef to end. Have a big box show up at the beginning of Dynamite with a, quote, to Hangman note. At the end of the show, Omega jumps out of the box and attacks Hangman. Omega gets over in his return via the Cornette box theory. If it comes out of a box, it's over. You jump out of a box, you're over. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. Oh, this is insane, bro. These people are... All right. I think we had enough fun. Thank you guys for listening. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.